Well, it's getting extra chilly here as we are in November here for us Union fans. Well, welcome everyone to today's edition of PHLY Union Podcast. Of course, I'm one of your hosts, JP Zapata, and I am so happy to have back here the lovely Renee Washington getting her nice little sip on a nice little beach. We love that for Renee. What's up, Renee? It's good seeing you.
Oh, it's good to be back, JP. I feel like I was gone for like a month. I feel like I missed so much because I was disconnected off the grid, and I did miss a lot because a lot happened in the sports world, especially. And I am happy to be back though. Missed you guys for sure. You guys held down the fort as always and killed it.
Appreciate it. Absolutely. As Frazier is now 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 he's on the sideline dealing with his illness. Shouts to Andrew Frazier. Make sure you guys wish him a get well soon as he's dealing with a little bit of a bug, a little stomach bug. Nothing too crazy. But it is good to have Renee back. And yes, so we will talk about some more Jim firing because obviously we did have our Jay Sugarman and Ernst Tanner, Jim Curtin firing press conference breakdown. Last week we had Gabe on. It was a great episode, but we need the thoughts of Renee Washington. So we'll definitely get into all that. We'll look at some rumors. Of course, our boy Mikael Uhre has been on the rumorville, which we'll break that down and to discuss. We'll also look at some of the international break stuff, but I wanted to discuss my little winter cleaning, Renee. So this weekend did some cleaning here in my office, and this was very sad to see. So I found this in my closet here. If you guys can see, this is the towel from the 2022 Eastern Conference Finals, and I think it was very fitting to bring this up because obviously we're going to finish talking about the gym stuff, and that match, Renee, feels like it was 10 years ago. It doesn't feel like it was 2 years ago. It feels like it was 10 years ago. And now we're here 2 years ago, 2 years later, talking about the firing of the manager, Jim Curtin. And it doesn't feel real. It really doesn't, Renee.
It doesn't, and it's interesting because I know prior to the show, since we are home right now, and you decided to bring out your trip down memory lane, I decided to bring out mine as well of the
Oh, God.
thing that I was given when I worked with the team back in 2020, and it's still the only ring that we've been able to get from the union. The only hardware that we've been able to get is this beauty. I mean, I remember this like it was yesterday. You talk about
Literally.
the rally towel. I remember the supporter shield ring like it was yesterday. 2020 supporter shield champions with the union on there and my name on there. And I thought, wow, this is just the beginning of many great things to come. And it was the beginning of more greatness until it wasn't. It's crazy to see how fast things change. And in a matter of 4 years, here we are. Here we are. This is the reality. So I also, in listening to the presser about Jim's firing, kind of found myself on you know what? I remember us bashing people when they were saying to sell the team. And after hearing some of the comments from Ernst and Tanner and Jay Sugarman, I'm kind of feeling like maybe it is time to move on and sell the team because it was extremely, extremely concerning, JP, when I heard, honestly, I don't think there was a good thing that was said outside of the opening comments about Jim specifically. That was about the only thing I agreed with how great he is as a person and how he was a good coach and how it wasn't personal. It was they wanted to make a move just because the team obviously underachieved and they wanted to make a move. That was it. Everything else was extremely eye opening and it absolutely just validated and affirmed the things that we've talked about here on the show that we kind of picked up from the team. And I took some notes for my key takeaways. But the biggest overarching key theme is holy crap. Are we at the pin into the fire right now? Of as bad as it was in 2024 and 2023 and how it's been feeling like a trickle down effect. It feels like it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have a lot to unpack there, especially we have an all season to kind of unpack it as well. And I definitely want to get your full thoughts on it, but it's just crazy to me. Like, I'm looking on social media, like Kai Wagner puts an Instagram story out there showing support, but like it doesn't feel like from the actual club, you don't have a lot of support for Jim. Like, a player leaves, you always get the cliche like thank you tweet, right? Like, the thank you or congratulations, whatever it may be. We got nothing. We got nothing from the union. I think the only other player obviously wasn't a player for the full season this past year, but Damian Lowe came out in support of Jim Curtin as well. You kind of hear the press conference, and you're just like, it did feel a little disrespectful, and some of the things that they were talking about with what Ernst Tanner was talking about Jim Curtin, and they did. I did hear them say that it wasn't a personal thing when it came to the firing, but you read between the context clues, like it did feel like a little personal. It felt a little bit personal, so it definitely does suck, right? I mean, like it's in the grand scheme of things, and I think Landon Donovan put this perfectly on his podcast with Tim Howard. But like before Jim Curtin was the manager of the Union, and even like the first 2-3 seasons of Jim Curtin being the manager of the Union, this team was, no one thought about the Union. It's like, it's as an MLS player, like you were the Galaxy back in those days, you see the Union on the schedule, you're like, easy one. I remember Glenn Donovan would come here and he would tweet out like, "Yo, where do I get cheesesteaks?" Instead of worrying about the Union, he's worrying about where to get Philly cheesesteaks. And so like Jim kind of changed that narrative, and Ernst did help out. And I don't want to discredit Ernst, because obviously once Ernst came in and took over for Ernie Stewart, things started changing dramatically on the pitch. And so I do want to give him kudos, but Jim Curtin was the perfect leader for this bunch. And you said goodbye to that after one bad run, after the many great runs that we had. So it is a gamble what they did, Renee. And we're gonna see if it did pay off here.
It is because, to your point, as much as the end of last season was frustrating with their tying streak, they still made the playoffs. They still were, they were still a top team in the league. And this season, they had a losing skid. First of all, they were. Let's not forget, at one point, the Union this season were the only unbeaten team across the MLS, and then they went on like a 10-game losing streak, and then they were able to crawl out of a hole and make it at least competitive for a playoff push. So this season was the only true season you can point to that was a failure. It was frustrating last season, don't get me wrong, but on paper it still was you made it to the playoffs. So that in itself is like it's an accomplishment that many can't say they do. So I know and I know we've got our resident Dodgers, LA Galaxy, all things LA sports fan, BC in the chat. We're going to get into the MLS playoffs. But as Andrew Sharp is bringing up, what is up with the Union is like the big question right now. It's frustrating and it's concerning. And when I listened to what Ernst Tanner and Jay Sugarman were saying, the first things I got was they are extremely unaware of the tone and the audience of their fans, because people loved Jim Curtin. And that entire
Mm-hmm.
press conference was not about Jim Curtin. It was about them. Every question, everything people were talking about was regarding Jay and Ernst's decisions, their plan, the future. What are they doing? Questioning them, yet they're the ones still here and Jim is the one gone. So if you
Mm-hmm.
don't pick up anything else, the vibe from everyone, they were not asking specifics about Jim's failures. They were asking about Jay and Ernst's failures. They were asking about the fact they built this beautiful complex, which I love what it's going to provide for the community. I love it's going to give them a space for tournaments and more games and resources and for all their clubs to be in one spot. How does that translate to winning you games?
Mm-hmm.
Everything you do in this business is about winning games. And then to say that we weren't aligned with Jim Curtin's views on subbing and on the youth is alarming to me, because what more do you want from him, from the youth? The youth, as
Mm-hmm.
they said, they feel like there's depth in the youth. They feel like the Union 2 players are going to be ready to play in the MLS as soon as 2025. Players, if that is the plan, to just, because they made it, and I almost, now it's unfortunate they make it to the MLS Next Pro Championship, which is an incredible honor. But don't let that fool you into thinking that the Union 2 players are MLS ready and that it means the future is bright for the Union because they have one of the best teams across MLS Next Pro. Where are other teams getting their talent from? Not their second team. They're getting their talent from transfers and international players. You've got teams bringing in the Messis of the world, or even take it a step down, the Suarez's of the world. We talked about, Gareth Bale, all these different names. And the plan is to bring in the 17 and 18-year-olds and hope they're going to be ready next year for depth. And then on top of that, to make it even worse, they had the nerve to mention how there were unfortunate circumstances that happened this season, such as injuries and this schedule that messed up their ability to compete. Nobody else has injuries. Nobody else has a crazy schedule. Have we not? That's sports. Look across
Yeah.
any league, any sport. Every team deals with injuries.
Yep.
Every team deals with the fatigue of the
Hmm.
schedule. And so all of the things they're saying to me are so unaware to your fans and to your team and to the reality is that this team is built off of all $75 million they've invested in the youth in the pipeline is not correlating to winning games because in the MLS today, it's not enough to solely build your team on the youth. I'm fine with the homegrown product. I think they're great players. I'm not discrediting that aspect of development, but it's not enough to just hope that 17-year-olds will be able to come in and win you an MLS title. That's not the
Hmm.
answer. So it's frustrating to me when I heard everything they're saying. To me, it makes me think Jim was protecting the union. He was protecting the fans. He was protecting all of us because it sounds like, based off what they were saying, they wanted more Union 2 players to get minutes, more Union 2 players to get opportunities, more subs. Because if you don't try, you're not going to know, right, JP? If you don't try the CJ Onlys and Westfield and Vasquez, if you don't try these guys, you're not going to know. Actually, you will know. You can tell. If they're not dominating in Union 2, they're probably not ready for the MLS. There is a huge gap between those two leagues. I love what the pipeline provides, but do not get it twisted. It is the JV to varsity comparison. We played for everybody like us that played high school sports. You were not getting your best varsity players from your JV team. Your best varsity players were typically either transfers or fresh or players coming in ready to play. You're not going to go, oh, I'm going to go play JV and develop for varsity. One or two players
You're
are going to
right.
be players, correct. One or two are going to be swing players that play both as a bench player for the varsity team and then a major player for JV, and then they might make varsity by sophomore, junior, senior year and get more minutes. You're not building your varsity team around your freshman and JV team. It's just not the reality. So for them to have this ignorant idea, it's an unawareness of sports. Tell me any other is are the NBA teams building their teams off of their G League teams?
Oh my God, you imagine that?
ML is Major League Baseball building their teams off of just their minor league prospects? It's just everything was so unaware. So I'm off my soapbox for now. I know
No.
a lot of chat and a
Please
lot
keep
of
going.
comments coming in, but it was so I was like, it kept getting worse. Everything they
Yeah.
were saying and actually was getting worse. That we have depth. We've got talent. Look how great our Union 2 team is. Okay, the two do not correlate. It's apples to oranges. That is not the plan. So I'm nervous because I think Jim Curtin was protecting us, not blocking us
Uh-huh.
from whatever mess is about to unfold with whoever they're going to bring in as the next. It sounds like they want a puppet of a head coach that's just going to do whatever they want. And that is terrifying to me. Ugh.
Renee, you could not be more spot on. Like I promise you. Like you. I mean, you've been saying a lot of what I've been saying, but like it's been spot on exactly what you say, Andrew. I mean, oh my God, if you're going to the union because of the Sixers mess, don't do it. No, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
I don't know who's. I don't know. Actually, that could be a whole show in itself. Who is more frustrating, the Union or the Sixers? I don't know.
Yeah. Barbara saying hello. We're happy to have Renee back from her
I'm
vacay.
happy to be back, but I wish I was coming back to better updates and news.
Better things. Tanner out. There it is, Brett. We got the first one. Earns Tanner out. Here's the thing, Renee. Like people like to comment Philadelphia sports fans, but like Philadelphia sports fans are probably the more intelligent sports fans that there is in this country, and especially when it comes to the sport of soccer. The big thing from the presser that I took away was the conversation again about the youth. And this is something that they constantly keep. They love to die on this sword. They love to beat their chest about their youth academy. They have the best young American players. They love to boast about all that type of stuff. But like the thing is, and that's why I say you're spot on, it's like kids like are not typically supposed to be playing with adults, and if they do, that's great, but like they're typically like your role players, your depth pieces, and it seems like the union want them to be more of a core integral piece of this team. And I've told you before, I think it's fine to have the youth academy, I think it's fine to develop those pieces. I do like have building your squad around the youth. I do like that. But the rest of the squad cannot be supplemented with diamonds in the rough. Like you that's where you need to spend that money. And I don't think that they fully grasp that idea yet. And that's just the hard part about it. Like Jim was super frustrating when it came to when it came to new players and when it is to put them out in matches. We talked about the Ty Barriba one. That's like the best example. We all can agree that that was handled in the wrong way. Ty Barriba should have been put out there earlier, and we completely understand that. But like Jim, before becoming the head manager of the union, let I remind you, Jim's job was in the youth academy for the union in the early stages of it. He was a youth coach. So Jim understands how youth players work. He's not gonna try to stunt their development because heck, we need a left shuttle midfielder because we have no more midfield depth. Like he's not going to do that. Every time he makes these type of decisions, it's for the kids in mind. And when the kids are ready, he knows he's done it before. I mean, for Christ's sakes, he put out Mark McKenzie and Austin Trusty out there in a situation that probably wasn't conducive for those young players, but he put them out there because he knew that they were ready for that type of situation. And yes, they failed at first, but they learned from those mistakes. And look, now you're seeing Mark and Austin in freaking Europe. Brendan Aronson's the same example as well. And I just felt like Ernst was just undermining Jim Curtin. And now you're hearing the reports, Renee. Like if it seems as if this last final season of the two, they didn't have a relationship. Like that's not good at all. And so like yes, Jim may have his ideals, Ernst may have his ideals, but at the end of the day, you need to get on the same page, and that's how winning soccer is done.
Yeah.
It's at the end of the day, like I said this last week, the union really need to look at themselves in the mirror because Ernst has done a solid job of putting a team together, but we may find out soon enough how good of a manager Jim Curtin was. It was the perfect mix. Ernst brought Jim the young players and the diamonds in the rough. Jim brought together a culture, and it was a recipe for success. But now you don't have that. And obviously, we'll have plenty of conversations of who's going to be the next guy. But the thing you take away the most from last week's presser is that it really does stem from the youth. It really does. Jim
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel like they were ready. Ernst felt like they were ready for this. And at the end of the day, we're not gonna. I guess we're never gonna find out if they were exactly ready or not. But like depth was something we talked about last off season because it was the problem the year before. We knew the schedule was going to be congested, and their idea was, "Oh, we're just going to hope that everyone stays healthy," and that's
And,
kind of why we're at where we're at today.
and they actually confirmed that in the presser, which is the sad part. And I know, Barbara, I appreciate you saying that I should be a consultant for the union because I know the team. This is just my own experience. I've lived through this. I've been in this. I've been on the other side as a player, and I can tell firsthand there are players that are just not ready for that next step because soccer and sports in general, it's not just about your touch on the ball and how great you can strike the ball. It's about do you have the talent, the soccer IQ, but also the physical, the speed of play changes with each level where you have less time to make decisions. You have less time on the ball. You have less time for touches. And then also, in addition to the speed of play changing, the physicality changes. You need to be able to hang with players at that next level. And the Union 2 guys, and I know we had Jack Edwards on, who actively is a broadcaster for MLS Next Pro games and not only for Union 2, but all games, sees these guys and also does MLS games and USL games and all the different levels. You can firsthand see, okay, this is a player that has the potential. We see the pieces, we see it coming together, but that doesn't automatically translate to the next level immediately. It will take time. And the way that soccer has evolved in the United States is you now are getting more teams are going to build, they're going to have the role players as the young, fiery, energetic players shot out of a cannon, but their true game winning impact players are their more expensive veteran pieces. It's just the reality. And I think that's sports in general. Like, rarely do you see a team that has enough with their youth that their youth can carry them all the way. At some point, it catches up to them. You need those veterans. You need to have the veteran. Look at the Washington Commanders. Let's switch to a whole different sport. Jaden Daniels, fantastic fantastic start to their 4-1 season. And then they get the wake up call when they play a team like the Eagles that maybe they're not really as good as they are. Because when you're that young, you still have to learn, take your lumps, get the experience of what does a full season look like. Sure,
Mm-hmm.
you can have a Kevin Sullivan or CJ Only or Nelson Pierre, whoever, give you spurts and sparks of really good moments, but can they do that for a full season? The Union need players that can give you a full season of impact, of minutes, meaningful minutes as a starter or even someone that can compete for a starter, not someone that can give you spark pieces here and there. So the goal to build just around the youth, thinking that because they're successful at the MLS Next Pro level, they're going to be successful at the MLS level this year is unrealistic. First of all,
Yeah.
you're going to, just like we saw with Andrew Rick, there is such thing as putting these guys out there too soon. And now you are honestly stunting their growth. It's discouraging and it kills their confidence. And on the other side, as Kai Wagner has expressed, the young guys don't get it. They don't understand the grind. They don't understand the mentality. They don't understand the responsibility. They don't understand the independence, the accountability. So you can't build a winning professional team around teenagers, period. They need to be your fill-in pieces, your role player, your off the bench pieces, not all your depth. So I just was very discouraged by everything they said. And everything they said was a lack of accountability, a lack of awareness. And to me, just shows for whatever reason, despite everybody in the league understanding the importance of paying and investing financially in your team now with veteran international talent, they're focused on just I know they mentioned American players, which I'm fine with, but then get some American talented players that are 26, 27.
I don't.
Get somebody else. There's other options. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. How about a blend of the youth, American players, if you want to continue to foster that development, sure, but also bring in talent that is ready now, that has proven, that has shown they can play at this level, not the hopeful players that you think have potential because they've shown you, a flash in the pan at the Union 2 level.
Yeah, we got to get to a break real quick, but
Okay.
that's a really good point that you did bring up. First with the thing about this league, I don't think that this money ball type of thing that the Union have been doing, I don't think that that's going to be able to be sustainable. Teams are spending more money in this league as this league continues to get more popular. More investors are want to be a part of this. They want to get a piece of the pie. And like it is interesting that Jim, it seems like he bumped heads with Ernst about these type of things, and we talked about it before too. Like those little subliminal messages and pressers where he talks about how much money we have invested in this club. But now you have some vets come out and talk about it too. You brought up Kai Wagner. Remember Andre Blake brought that up as well. So is that? I mean, are they okay?
My next concern, that's what I'm wondering. I mean, Jim hasn't spoken apparently to Ernst Tanner in this entire season, as some reports have indicated. They haven't had a conversation until he was fired. Like there was no communication. So now, as we know, the players aren't dumb. Andre Blake sees that. Ali Boudoua sees that.
Does not
Jakob
fit
West
right.
and Jack Elliott, we wondered why they were so bad this season. It might not have just been Andre Blake's injury. They probably see it too.
Yeah. I also don't like that, they're kind of dying. They have this idea about the young American player. I don't know if I'm down with that fully. You got to expand your horizons. Like I get it, like America is such a wide pool of different athletes and different sports, but like there's star talented players in Brazil, in Portugal, in Spain. No matter where it is, like you can't just say like, okay, we're only gonna get the best young American players. Like no, we gotta expand it, but. Renee, with that being said, we also got to talk about some of our friends. So let's real quick talk about them. All right. And ladies and gentlemen, let's kick this bad boy off and talk about our friends over at TrueMark Financial. That is right, ladies and gentlemen. And look, in 2024, obviously, we're frustrated with the Philadelphia Union's finances. So you don't have to be frustrated about your own finances, ladies and gentlemen. Not at all. And with TrueMark Financial, I love it because they're making it super easy to track our finances. And especially like, look, this past weekend, I had a boatload of fun. I was traveling all around South Jersey and Philadelphia. And after a weekend, things can kind of catch up to you. So I love being able to have a mobile banking app where I do have the ability to kind of just monitor all my expenses. And even better, if I happen to have that heart attack where I think someone stole my debit or credit card, I love the ability to be able to lock that card right there in the app. I think it's super convenient. That's one of my favorite aspects too. And some of these new money management tools are making it super simple for some of my young parents to be able to start that financial responsibility conversation with their kids. I'm telling you guys, it's never too early. I would have benefited wholeheartedly with those conversations as a young one, but you guys can start that now, and TrueMark Financial will be able to make it easier for you. So, what are you waiting for? Start your credit union career here today. You can visit either truemark.com/PHLY, that's truemark.com/PHLY, or there are 24 branches in this Philadelphia area. You can walk on in, ask any questions you may have, let them know that PHLY sent you there, and then you can start your credit union career right then and there. It's nothing better than that. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you guys check out TrueMark Financial, and shouts to our friends over at TrueMark Financial.
All right. And also, as we talked about earlier with our dear buddy Andrew out sick today, want to make sure you're not feeling sick. And I know 'tis the season, not only to be jolly, but to not feel so great. And when you're dealing with the holidays and preparing for all the fun with you and your loved ones and your family and friends, you want to make sure you're healthy to do that. So, in addition to the flu vaccine, which, as the CDC recommends, everyone should get their flu vaccine every year, the CDC does also share that it decreases children's chances of a serious or deathly flu vaccine by 75%. But in addition to the flu vaccine, they also at Rite Aid have other vaccines for you, COVID, as well as the pneumonia vaccination, because you want to make sure you're protecting yourself from pneumonia. I had pneumonia when I was a child, very young. I had pneumonia. And when you have loved ones, especially those that are getting a little bit older, you want to make sure they're protected as well, because adults age 50 and older are now eligible for the vaccine. Before it was 65 and plus, now it has moved to 50 plus. That the CDC has lowered their age recommendation to now 50 plus. And there are millions of people who get pneumonia every single year. And with the respiratory illness, it's frustrating. It doesn't feel great. It knocks you out for a while, and it takes a while to recover from. Some people get mild symptoms, others have serious complications, and the vaccine is just one of the best ways to keep yourself healthy. And with insurance, it's usually at no cost. So with Rite Aid, getting vaccinated is easy. You can just walk into your local Rite Aid, or you can schedule online at riteaid.com. And if you're unsure of which vaccines you need, you can also ask your pharmacist for a personal recommendation. But be sure to stop by your local Rite Aid today to get any sort of vaccines that you're interested in around the pneumonia, flu, COVID-19, or even if you need some over-the-counter medications to stock up on allergy medicine, cough and cold medicine, or anything else that you're looking for this time of year. Rite Aid conveniently has you covered.
I love it. All right. Yes. Sending our best wishes and get better quickly to our man, Andrew Frazier, who is on the sideline right now battling. He's battling a little stomach bug. So hopefully he
Ugh,
is
the
feeling
worst.
better. No, it wasn't the union that gave him the stomach bug. Don't worry, guys. I don't know where he got it, but yes, he hopefully he gets better. But all right, let's move forward here, Renee. So we got some more juicy tidbits. It's rumor season, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. So we're gonna hear some wild. We're gonna see some wild things. But want to give a quick shout out and love to our dear friend Gabe from We the Union, who brought this to our attention this over the weekend. So transfer market now. Obviously, if you're Toronto FC, you put a lot of stock into this. But if you're a logical fan, you don't put too much stock into this. But apparently, according to Transfer Market, Mikael Uhre has got some lookers here. Werder Bremen and Bochum. If you guys know the actual pronunciation, I would really appreciate the correct one. But it looks like they are interested in Mikael Uhre. Now, again, you don't want to take too much stock into this, but it is interesting. Renee, I think what's the most interesting about the rumor, it's Werder Bremen part of this. Now, to give you guys a little bit rewind back in history, this is the same club that was linked to Julian Carranza, in which we do know that there was legitimate interest from Werder Bremen, and Julian actually didn't reciprocate the same interest. He's the one that pulled out. He wanted a better situation, so that one kind of died then and there. There was also rumors before with Leon Flock to Werder Bremen, and that would make sense because Leon Flock actually has played over Bundesliga and Bundesliga too. So that one seemed pretty legit, but nothing came about it. So You had one rumor that didn't seem too legit. The other one looked legit. And now we have this one, Mikael Uhre. It's two clubs here. I mean, we know that because of the incentives that he reached, he will be back next year. But that doesn't mean he can't get sold. Renee, should Union fans buy this Uhre out of here after the season, this past season?
Oh boy. Third time's a charm for them, maybe?
Yeah, why Philly? Why the Philly players all? I mean, is it Ernst? I guess that.
Alone. I do think we're gonna see more movement. And it's not going to be the players that we want to be moved. Um, it's it's interesting because there are guys, unfortunately, and this is the reality, that have looked at previous Union players as the model to come in, raise your stock, and go on somewhere better to play. And that is, I think, in part also because of this whole youth development focus. It's not about keeping players here. And while I do understand it's okay to make the Union a stepping stone, I don't think you want that to be the full model, that this is a second tier level club where you're just going to come get development and move on. But that's kind of I feel like the identity that the Union have began to adopt. So for Mikael Uhre, who did have a strong end of the season, he had a nice streak where he scored, like, I think it was like a goal a game in the course of like 4 out of 5 games or something like that. He did perform much better after Jim Curtin moved him out of the starting role. He started playing much better as the season went on, and especially when Adeniran came in, Sam Adeniran was able to, I feel like, kind of challenge him for his position. I think there's some truth to this, but I think there's also going to be some truth that others are going to be looking to make a move as well and actively fielding some of these conversations, because just like we on the outside can see, it's like we're on the Titanic right now and the guys are playing the violins and everything. We see the ship starting to sink a little bit. There's a definite divide and split, and right now we're all trying to jump on the Jim Curtin bandwagon, because I think although we disagree with him on some things, we agreed with him on more than we do with Ernst Tanner and Jay Sugarman. That is the reality of where this ship is going. We have hit an iceberg, and it's only getting deeper and worse. So I think we're gonna see Uhre actively explore. It's been a couple seasons now. It makes sense to me if he's getting. I mean, a $4 million offer is solid. It's better than what you're getting now. I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
be surprised if he's fielding some phone calls, but I wouldn't be surprised if there are others, especially some of the veterans, um, that are as well. And I think a guy like a Kai Wagner, Andre Blake, they might be comfortable just because of their families of not moving. But I think
Mm-hmm.
those guys that have like younger kids or just want more, to be honest, and want a more, the term that bounced around, JP, was toxic. That came out. Some reports have indicated some toxic,
Mm.
environments and behaviors going on behind the scenes between the front office and Jim,
Wouldn't
and
surprise
that
me.
trickles down to the players. Again, they probably like Jim the same way we like Jim. Or even if they don't like him, they probably can still see and feel some of that toxicity. So if this environment that the Union have created is indeed in any way toxic,
Mm-hmm.
why would you want to stay? You're not winning. You didn't make the playoffs last year. There's no guarantee of anything for the future. Why
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't you field some conversations to get paid more and go somewhere new for a fresh start?
That's a really good point, and you brought the young kids. I completely forgot to bring this point up in our last segment, but I think what scares the people about this youth development, because like again, Philly fans are not stupid. When your influx in your team building is surrounded around the youth, historically in soccer, those type of clubs, they're just sellers. They're seller clubs. Nobody wants to be a seller club, because what that means is that you're just bringing in young players, whether they come from a different situation and they crapped out, you're trying to revive their career, or you're just bringing them up from your own youth system. They're eventually going to be sold, and so that means money into the pockets of the ownership group. And I think that's what's freaking a lot of fans out too, because like we all know that if, let's just for example, right, like CJ Alney, right, CJ Alney comes up, kills it in a year or two. I mean, obviously big clubs are going to come for him, and you're going to get a good price tag on that as well. So cha-ching, cha-ching, there's money into the pockets there. And so like this past window, when you were this close of winning a championship and they didn't really put in legitimate investments back in the club, and the championship window is still open, that's why people are scared. That's why people are freaking out a little bit. Now with this UA stuff, Renee, what's interesting about with the Werder Bremen one, there is a player right now on Werder Bremen, which I was trying to find the name of the player, but I couldn't find it. But there's a player right now in Werder Bremen who has the same agency as Mikael Uhre.
Mm,
So what it tells me is that this is agent driven, and for
yeah.
some reason, Werder Bremen is always in the middle of these type of discussions there. But yeah, I mean, like, look, you brought it up. I feel like I'm always killing him, but I just think that Ua is not played up to what his contract is, and I hate to bring that up, but it's the truth. I mean, the fact is that when you're bringing in a $2 million DP player, you would expect him to play like a $2 million DP player. Instead, what I legitimately got was like an 800,000 GAM player, and that's fine. But like, we're not paying him to play like that. There's nothing wrong with Ua. Ua's a fine player, but he's not what this club needed over the past couple seasons, and that's just the unfortunate part about it. Now, why I don't buy is like, why would a club like Werder Bremen go out and try to get a player like Ua, who legitimately had struggled to find the starting lineup towards the end of it? The only reason why he got put in there is because Sam Adeniran showed his real true colors, and it's like, all right, well, Ua is definitely better than Sam Adeniran. And so, like, this is why, like, this rumor is just like, but I definitely think we should look into it. I wonder if now, so if this is agent driven, Renee, so is Ua unhappy here? Is Ua trying to force his way out? Like,
It's
these
a
are all the questions now in my head.
Correct. And this is a whole other topic. I know Ivan had mentioned in the chat earlier, as the MLS evolves and improves, the teams like it seems like the Union are falling behind. I think the bigger question beyond Jim, beyond Mikael Uhre, beyond anything in terms of homegrowns, whatever else, is how are the Union setting themselves up to continue to evolve and be successful in what the new look of the MLS is. The reality is, if any agent is looking at the Union, especially a player like Ua, they're not going to encourage their client to stay because, first of all, the agent is driven by the money. So they're going to go where the money is. But on the other side of it, why would a player stay with the Union? They are the job that doesn't want to pay people what they deserve. Would you stay in that job, or would you go somewhere else where you can support your family? And if they're not winning, they're not even a playoff team as of this past season. You won't pay players, and that model is exactly when you have them openly admitting in press conferences. You have the top guys in Jay Sugarman and Ernst Tanner openly admitting we are focused on the youth development. We've invested $75 million in the entire club rather than paying players at the top level. We are investing in our youth and our homegrowns, and then on top of that, you won't pay your veterans what they deserve. All of this is reinforcing they do not care about their veteran talent. They would rather let guys walk. Once they reach a certain point, they will not do what it takes to pay to keep them. So if you won't pay to keep them, they're not going to stay. They're going to leave, and you're going to continue to have this cycle of guys that reach a certain threshold of talent where they now require and demand more salary, and they're not going to get it. So overall, this team is not going to be able to compete because in order to have the talent, you have to pay to keep them. And they should be listen, look, when you look at the Columbus Crew, when you look at Cincinnati, when you look at Inter Miami, LA Galaxy, LAFC, they're keeping talent. The MLS doesn't have to be a stepping stone. This whole like the MLS will always lose players to other leagues. No, you won't. If you pay guys, you won't lose them. They're going to go where they're going to get paid. And if they're not getting paid in the MLS, they're going to leave. So what should the Union do? Be willing to go deeper into your pockets to keep these players and pay them what they're worth. And now you don't have to always have this turnover of developing guys and they move on. So Ua is a great example of one of the many, many things we're going to continue to see until they change. Their agents are not going to care about, oh, the community and the fans and the team is great. No, their agent's going to push for them to go where they're going to get paid. So they get paid. So everybody gets paid. And it's not the Union. It's just it's going to be a never ending cycle until there is real change and it starts at the top. That we're, as a Union, they need to invest in their players to keep their players.
Yeah, I mean, like, why would a player want to come here? And it doesn't seem like, obviously, like we keep hearing, like they don't want to go out and get any players of significance. It's so crazy because, like, Renee, they tell us that they have conversations about players all the time. whether they should break the bank for some of these players, and they come back and say no, we shouldn't. So that's what they tell us, right? We don't obviously know what happens in these conversations.
Actions speak louder than words, GP.
Exactly, and it's crazy to me that you sit there and like a player like a Cucho Hernandez, like just like of that caliber, because that's really what we're trying to go for, a Lucas Rayon, and you sit there and you say, "No, it's not worth it. No, I don't think it's conducive." How can you sit there and say that a dynamic player like that wouldn't help this team out, and you're not breaking the bank whatsoever?
What
So,
message
like,
send to the team?
yes, yes, Nick,
Instead,
this
you're going to bring in the 17-year-olds that you hope can get to that point instead of the guy that already is showing they're ready.
this whole gym situation, this gym firing cannot help for recruitment, cannot help for the image league wide or worldwide for the Philadelphia. Because you know what we really learned, Renee, over these past couple weeks is that Ernst Tanner is calling the shots for everything with this club. Everything with this club, Ernst, as far as the decisions on the pitch for the player personnel, is on Ernst Tanner. And also, what it's telling us is that Jay Sugarman back in 2018 heard Ernst Tanner, and Ernst is probably talking about the bottom line, and Jay's like, "I'm in. You're gonna make me successful, a successful soccer club, and I'm gonna make some money. You're hired." And it's clear as day. That's what's happening now. So when you hear Ernst Tanner in front of the media and the fans talking about the reason, some of the reasons why this didn't work out with him and Jim, and you hear the talk about the youth, it is very evident that Ernst Tanner is running the ship, Renee.
Into the ground.
The SSS Union Titanic. That is what we're gonna be calling it there. This is absolutely rough. All right. Well, before we move forward here, ladies and gentlemen, let us take a quick second here to talk about some more friends. And let's talk about our friends over at Coors Light, ladies and gentlemen. I'll tell you what, after all these conversations that we're having about this soccer team right now, I'm going to need myself a Coors Light because, dude, I'm stressed and I could really use a second to sit back, relax, crack open a cold one, and just chill. I'm going to choose Coors Light to chill with. And of course, as we have a lot more sports going on right now, MLS Cup playoffs, international break, we'll talk about that in a second as well. We got NHL 2, football's in the best part of its season. So it's time to have a nice cold one to watch these sports with. And so I'm going to choose a nice cold Coors Light because when the mountains turn blue, it's as cold as the Rockies. Coors Light is cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold packaged for a much smoother finish. And when you embrace a chill mindset, it's a good time to choose chill. Crack open that Coors Light. Coors Light is a mountain cold refreshment and it is refreshing as the Colorado Rockies. And right now, you can get Coors Light delivered to your front door. It's very simple. Go to CoorsLight.com/PHLY soccer. That's CoorsLight.com/PHLY soccer to get it delivered straight to your door with our friends at Instacart. It's awesome. You don't have to go to the beer store anymore. You can deliver it right to your front step. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. A big shout out and thank you to our friends over at Coors Light.
And I also want to give a thank you to our friends over at Rothman Orthopedics who have been helping for decades to keep us feeling good. Because listen, one thing we want to make sure you are doing is investing in making your body feels great. If you got achy joints and cramping hands and back pains and neck pains and whatever else may be bothering you, at Rothman Orthopedics, they have a specialty for everything. They have physicians that are specialized in orthopedics and clinical research, fellowship trained to treat specific areas of the body. And since 1970, that's over 50 years at this point, they've been committed to the research, the innovation, and minimally invasive procedures to make sure you can get back to what you need to enjoy your everyday. Now, with their 200 plus fellowship trained physicians, they specialize in areas of the body from head to toe, from your anything from hips, knees, spines, elbows, feet and ankles, hands and wrists. They've got sports medicine, physical medicine and rehabilitation, orthopedic oncology, and trauma and fracture care as well, serving dozens of communities across Pennsylvania and New Jersey alone with 30 plus convenient offices, urgent cares, and walk-in centers that give you professionals through and through to help you out. I personally have had my fair share of times going to Rothman for physical therapy over the years, for x-rays, for MRIs. They also have orthotics and bracing whenever is necessary and needed around procedures, Year after year, they are consistently helping over 60,000 patients with hip, knee, shoulder, and ankle replacements across the country alone. And with the high volume, it's also high quality. And again, I experienced it myself. Thankfully, to their help and support, I was able to get back on the soccer field as a player over the years, on the basketball court, on the track. And with Rothman Orthopedics, they are specialized in orthopedics and you. So you can visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more and make an appointment today.
Love it. Awesome stuff. All right, so I hate to be the bearer of more bad news here. So this is another reason why a lot of Union fans are upset. So obviously, we know about Cincinnati. We know about their recent resurgence with the help of Chris Albright and Pat Noonan, and some former Union players as well. Well, their season ended, Renee, right? So it was heartbreaking first round loss. The NYCFC in upset fashion. So what do? We're not even in the full all season yet, and they're already making deals as they have completed a deal to sign Togo international forward Kevin Denke. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. From Cercle Bruges. I'm assuming it's a rival to Club Bruges. The fees of is 16.2 million, setting a new league record. This is insane, guys. This is absolutely insane. So like one thing I want to kind of displace as I heard about with this type of rumor. So a lot of people were saying, well, here comes Cincinnati making a deal after the season's over, and then you haven't done anything. The thing is that negotiation, especially in this league, you don't know exactly when it started. This deal could have been in the works since the summertime, and it finally got concluded here today. But listen, that doesn't save the Union because they haven't had any conversations over the past couple months with any player close to that range there. But that's part of the frustration that a lot of Union fans have because, look, I mean, you've heard some rumors Luciano Costa could be on his way out of Cincinnati. That would be a humongous loss for them, right? But they're like, okay, if we lose that, well, that's part of the sport. We got to keep finding players. And they keep investing in players where they're going to spend 16. The Union have never even sniffed a transfer fee like that. It is absolutely crazy, Renee.
Well, that's the way to do it. When you have one player out, bring another player. And you know what? It might be smart that if you lose a top player or potentially, because they didn't lose him yet, if you're potentially going to lose a leading goal scorer, one of your top players, it might make sense to replace them. And it's probably going to cost you to replace them. The only time the Union have a sniff of the number 16 is not when we're talking about millions, it's when we're talking about age. Because that's all they go after. They don't go after someone that costs 16.2 million. They go after someone that is 16 years old. That is the Union way. So they're right on par with the number 16, but just in a different way, guys. That's all. Just change your frame of thinking. They also brought in a 16 deal for a 16-year-old, not a $16.2 million forward that's going to come in and actually help Cincinnati out. When you lose in the first round of the playoffs and then you bring in a league record of a $16.2 million deal, I think that's how you respond. Versus losing in the playoff, not even getting to the playoffs, and all you can talk about is the 16 and 17-year-olds and the future that you have with the Union 2 players as a young talent. This is why. Some teams are moving this way and the Union are. It's a Union
Well,
dynamic, unfortunately.
on that note, I'll see myself out. You got this show. That was good. We don't spend millions.
So sad because the moment you showed that tweet by Tom Bogart, and shout out to Bogues for continuing to drop
Folks,
all the updates throughout the league, I was like, wow, a number 16 in a tweet. When have I seen the Union with a number 16 for a price point? I was like, oh, they don't ever have anything over $1 million
I don't think
at
yeah,
all.
at least for the time we will not see it. Speaks volumes of our club. It's crazy too, Ivan, because like I just mentioned, like Chris Albright was under Ernst Tanner. So he learned all that, like finding diamonds in the rough, scouting, player personnel development. He learned all that. And then he goes to Cincinnati. In Cincinnati, who before Chris Albright arrived there, was just throwing money nilly-willy at anybody. Hey, you want to play for Cincinnati? Here's millions of dollars. And so Chris is like, no. Yes, we need to spend that money, but we got to do it in a smart way. And in that first year, they put their foundation down, and now they are spending the money, but for players that fit what they're trying to do. And it's obviously a disappointing year. And we talked about it with our guys over at FC Soccer Talk, FC Cincy Soccer Talk. I'm sorry. Like it's tough to replace a Brandon Vasquez. Like Brandon Vasquez is one of the players in this league that we'll be talking about 5-10 years down the line. He was that special. To replace that production was super difficult, and they had other situations with Penza, staying out, can't say out of trouble. But it's part of the sport. You got to figure out a way to stay relevant, stay fresh, keep changing it up. I mean, like bringing it back to the sports. The NFL this year had a resurgence. That the pass happy, 4 wide receivers spread out. Like you're starting to see less of that. People are going more physical play. You're seeing more fullbacks. That's sports. It's constantly changing. You got to stay with the trends. And the Union think they're still trendsetters, but they're starting to look like Chip Kelly, Renee.
Correct. Like you're not. So, listen, now this is very consistent with the Philly sports theme. Don't try to be the smartest in the room. Don't overthink things.
Be a copycat.
Nick Sirianni. The playbook is there. Jay Sugarman and Ernst Tanner. The playbook is there. Just follow suit. Joel Embiid. We don't have to overthink things and overcomplicate things. In order to keep up in sports, from a front office standpoint, you have to pay and invest in your team. You're going to lose talent. Where did LeBron James play prior to the Lakers? The Cleveland Cavaliers.
That's right.
I know you know the answer, so I'm just gonna move this along fast. The Cavaliers brought in a Donovan Mitchell. They regressed a little bit after LeBron left. And who's the only team undefeated right now across the NBA?
That's right. The really underrated coach too.
You have to find ways to keep up. And you're going to lose players. It's going to happen, whether they get injured, whether they leave the team altogether. So you need to make sure that when you have players moving on, you are replacing them. You can't lose a Julian Carranza, and the answer is we're going to have Union 2 guys and bench players that will step up. That you can't have a season where you don't make the playoffs. You fire your head coach, and the answer is we're going to probably promote Marlon LeBlanc and also promote the Union 2 players. They all did great at the MLS Next Pro level. Let's just push them all into the MLS. No.
I agree. And our great follow on Twitter, Cuz729 checking in with his Nick Castellanos avatar picture. I like that.
Love it.
Checking in to say that I'm still angry from that press conference. It's a presser, but it's also just like the way they kind of like. There's no like if you look on the Union's website, Union's Twitter account, Union's Instagram, there's like no appreciation for Jim Curtin. Like you probably will never have a manager again like Jim in your club, and there's just no appreciation. Like they did him dirty, Renee.
He was MLS Coach of the Year twice. He got
you
MLS Cup Finals. He got you a Supporters Shield. He won you international, all the international success. No, they did not win an actual championship. But for what he did in his tenure to turn this team around, and also the way that the fans love him, how do you not, like, where is our farewell Jim Curtin? Where's a video montage? Where's a tweet? Where is a blimp in the sky? Like, can we get something about Jim? And if you claim it was not personal and it was on these quote unquote good terms, then why are we not getting the vibes of it being on good terms? If this was a toxic situation, you're firing him because you guys have been fighting and butting heads, I understand the silence. But you claim it wasn't a bad thing. You claim you just wanted to go in a different direction because the team fell short of expectation. So then why are you not giving him his flowers? Why are we not talking? They literally fired him and moved on.
Yeah, and like they just don't. It feels like they don't know what's going on. Like they fully don't understand what is going on. Like our buddy Jimmy King asked a great question for the fans. Like he asked a question for the fans, which I appreciate him asking that type of question because that's an important part of the sport, and no one ever brings that up. But like Renee, as you know, like they're gonna do some expansions next year at Subaru Park. Like there's gonna be some luxury seating, some premium seating, which is cool. Like I guess, like that's kind of like the trends of sports in 2024, and I get it. It's more entertainment than it is the sport. But like there are fans who have been investing into your club since 2010, right? And they've been asking for something simple as standing room seats, like the traditional European, supporters group section where you have the rails, you can stand there and chant for 90 minutes. And like, Renee, it doesn't feel like that costs a lot. It doesn't feel like that's a lot of work. You just got to rip up the seats and put railings. Like, it doesn't feel like it's a lot. It feels like what feels like a lot is putting in premium seating and luxury seatings into a stadium. And when Jimmy asked that question about what do you say for Jay and for Ernst, what do you say to the fans that aren't necessarily care for the premium seatings and are upset that now Jim Curtin is out along with their other favorite soccer players, and they pretty much just ignored the question?
They did.
They lack recognition of what's going on. It's absolutely wild. They don't. They. I mean, from what it looks like, because it does not look like they do care too much.
No, because
Feels.
that would have been a great opportunity for them to say something along the lines of, "We know how beloved Jim Curtin was in this community, and we appreciate everything he's done. And our hope is to take it the next step. Everything we're doing is to invest to build off of what the legacy is that Jim Curtin built in this city, and we're going to add to it. And we're only trying to amplify and give more opportunities for our fans and for our players and more resources." But instead, what they came across as is, we don't really like what Jim was doing. We were butting heads with him. We were not aligned, as they said a few times, and we're going in our direction because his direction did not align with ours. And we're going to find somebody that will. And so to have luxury seating, which will be great, but it's also unaware. This is not the time. Fans don't care about cushioned seats. They don't even want to be in the seats at this rate to cheer for the team because it's not a fun brand of soccer. And every team, I've been on so many press conferences with so many teams across various leagues. And one of the biggest things they stress is we owe it to our fans to give them a good product. Whether
Mm-hmm.
the goal, of course, is to win, but if not winning, at least an exciting, hard fought, close game. You're not giving that right now, Union. So forget the luxury seats. Nobody cares about that right now. We want to see, how does that score you goals? Does that get you shutouts? Like, what does that win you 50-50 balls? And like, what does that do on the field? Nothing. So you're investing the money in the wrong places right now. That's great to invest, but I think that's what like an Inter Miami should be doing. LAFC, LA Galaxy. I don't even think that's where the Union should be in their business model right now, of focused on the external stuff of the practice facilities and the luxury seating. You need to invest right now in the players. Period.
Absolutely, and it. They're picking the worst time for a PR mess, Renee, because if you look at it right now, the popularity of this league is going down. And like I know I mean I love that Messi Miami got eliminated, but like that was pretty much their bread and butter for the playoffs the rest of the way. They were banking on
Now,
that.
exactly. Now, who are you excited to watch in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean
It's
LA. I
still
mean
not that easy.
LAFC doesn't feel like they have the same juice that they have had the last couple seasons.
Mm-mm.
It's interesting. I mean, you
Now
still
they
got
do
the
have the
Galaxy.
upper hand. LAFC has the upper hand on Seattle. I know I was like checking out the matchups a little bit more. So they have
Hmm.
beaten Seattle the last 10 times they matched up. I'm sorry, 8 of the last 10 times they matched up. And they've also knocked Seattle out of tournaments twice. And they do have, in terms of that matchup, the upper hand. But when you look at the LA Galaxy, who I expect to beat Minnesota, I don't know that LAFC has the upper hand there. So my guess is, the first of all, I think for the East, it's just weird. You have NYCFC and Red Bulls, which great for New York.
Did you hear my take last week?
No, actually, I was disconnected. I couldn't get any
No,
internet.
I don't blame you for that.
It
But
fell off the face of the earth.
I did say I think it's the Red Bull year. Yeah, it feels like it's the Red Bulls year. They got that magic beating the reigning champs. They play a style of soccer that's conducive for tournaments.
Their year for what?
I think it's their year to win it all.
Oh,
In a year where Atlanta, who like, I mean, no one can name me 5 players on Atlanta in 2024. They upset Inter Miami. It could be the Red Bulls year. I would hate
Orlando
that.
feels like it's their year to win it all. I know Evan Weston and the Orlando faithful feel like it's their year. It does feel like it's going to be Orlando. I could see Red Bull. I could see them beating NYCFC to get into the Eastern Finals, and on the other side, LAFC versus LA Galaxy for an El Tactico in the conference finals.
Oh,
Honestly,
dude. Oh, I
big
just
year.
thought of this. We're about to
Mhm.
have a New York LA World
I
Series. I'm
know.
so out. So out on this one.
Here, how did this happen? Oh,
Oh god.
brutal. We can't handle this. We already had this in Major League Baseball. We don't need a New York, LA. Major League Soccer final.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to thank everyone who tuned on in here on TV. If you would like some more PHLY Union, you can tune on in at allphly.com. Shout to you guys. I appreciate it. Ivan with a funny comment. Premium seats to watch Chris the Philly Pele Donovan up close and personal. No. No, Ivan. No. Oh my God. That's
They
rough.
really think, like, my last thing that I got from the press conference, and I know because you're talking about Apple destroying the casual fans. Well, for the local Philly Union fans, they really, really, really believe that the Union 2 is enough excitement to like revive the community, is the vibe that I got. Like, they fully
Yeah.
believe that the future for the Union is in the hands of the Union 2. And I'm going to take it a step further. They're really believing in the Kevin Sullivan and Union 2 hype, is what it seems to me like. We've got
Oh
this
man.
exciting group, and they're very talented. Like, I
Yeah,
hate
for
to say this, 'cause
sure.
I'm not trying to discredit the talent of the Union 2, but we're talking about 16, 17, 18-year-olds. We're not talking about, as you're looking across the league, these guys that have played professional soccer longer than some of these players have been born.
Grown
Like,
ass men.
grown men. It's a whole different ball. It's a whole different ball game. But they fully are sipping the Kool-Aid, believing that this Union 2 group is gonna shake the best in the country. Like, what? Oh,
That is
baby.
correct.
Meanwhile, like I said, other teams are not feeding their senior team solely from their second team. They
That's
get a
right.
couple and they feed them from the transfer markets and international leagues. Yikes.
That is right. Cause keep this in mind. So either next week or the following week, I definitely want to do a deep dive in Apple TV because it's now been 2 years since they announced that news that they were doing Apple TV as their main streaming service. And I want to take a deep dive into that because I think it is very interesting. So obviously depending on the flow of news that we have here in the league and more importantly our club, I definitely want to do a deep dive on the Apple TV and the league as well. Well, Renee, I want to end today's show with I found this to be great news. I want to give a big shout out to Sam Kerr and Christy Muse because I think that's awesome. I think it's whoa, as I got sound playing from somewhere. Um, Obviously, if you haven't seen, they announced their pregnancy, and I thought that it was a really dope news to kind of come out. And I don't want to focus on the negative. You know, there's Twitter for that if you want to look at the negative stuff. But I want to give a big shout out to both of them for announcing their pregnancy. You know, best luck. Hopefully everything goes out smoothly. But a big shout out to both of them as they're expecting.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting for, Chrissy Mewis, and her and Sam Mewis have been such big, intricate parts of the U.S. women's national team side. Sam Kerr has been one of the best players in women's soccer, period. She still has a ton of records that are just getting broken in the NWSL. She hasn't even played in the league in years. And so for them, as a soccer dynasty power couple, to have their own
We
child
love
on the
that.
way, it's exciting. And there are positive things going on around the soccer world outside the frustrations. And so it was great to see the two of them announce that. And it's gonna be fun to watch them like exploring into parenthood and that next step
Yeah,
in their lives as they're still playing and now going to be able to have their little one on the way as well.
I love that stuff. It is awesome, guys. All right, well, that's going to do it for today's edition of PHLY Uni Podcast. Great to have Renee Washington back. Hopefully, all three of us can be back together next Tuesday, Lord willing. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe as well, not only for PHLY Union, but obviously we have some of the best coverage for all of your Philadelphia sports here in the city. So make sure you guys are subscribed and become diehards as well. We got some exclusive content, discount on merchandise, great Discord communities as well. You want to make sure you are a part of too. Ladies and gentlemen, for Renee Washington, of course, I am JP Zapata, and we're telling you guys to dupe on. We'll talk to you guys next week. See you guys.
We all silly like the mayor.